With your RaiderPower Minute on RaiderPower.com, I'm Josh Cook alongside Scott Fitzgerald, and we ask the fans to ask us questions each week, and now this is when we answer those questions. Scott, first question is about injury updates going in this weekend about Porter, Carpenter, and Grant, and how are they looking so far?
Well, Bo Carpenter is the most serious injury, I think, of all the injuries that took place against SMU. He's sprained an ankle day to day. Porter was classified as just tired, worn out, but he did a good job near the top, leading the team in tackles. Jakeem Grant, nothing specific. Sadale Foster also nothing significant either. But really, most important thing is that they're ready next Thursday for TCU.
And going into this season, besides the quarterback battle and the new coach, probably the most talked about position on the team was the running backs, and they really didn't do anything against SMU. Your leading rusher was Baker Mayfield for 16 yards, and that was the tie for the lead in the rushing. You know, one of the fans asked what may factored into that. Was it the play calling, was it the offensive line, or was it the running back core? What factored into them not really getting going against the Mustangs?
I don't know, and it's a little bit of a concern because most of the night SMU only rushed 3 or 4 and dropped everybody else. And so to not get the run game going is a little bit of a concern. You knew you were inexperienced and thin at the offensive line, and that came to fruition. And Cliff answered it by saying, no, we didn't necessarily make adjustments, we just did what was going to work. Because his job is to score points and win football games, and they won, and so you can't complain about it too much. But with the talent you have at running back, you're going to have to run the football at some point in this league, especially with a freshman quarterback, and that is probably concern numero uno for me and a lot of other people this week.
Another question off the forums was, can we expect to see better pass coverage this week against SFA? And of course, what comes after SFA is your first Big 12 conference game on a Thursday night against TCU. We know that SFA can pass the ball. We know that TCU can pass the ball and also run the ball. But can we expect a little better pass coverage this week?
Well, if you look at it, and I asked Coach Wallerstedt about this, and he said their MO changed when they got a 2-score lead. They wanted to see SMU drive the field, not necessarily successfully, but they wanted SMU to have to drive. So they backed off on the coverage this week, which is why you saw a lot of completions on the 7 to 10 yard pass plays, things like that. They moved the chains, they got a few first downs, and so that wasn't as big a concern as I thought after the game, after Coach Wallerstedt addressed that. That said, you're going to have to tighten up that coverage because you're going to face teams that throw the ball just like SFA. We'll see what TCU does. We'll talk about that next week, I bet. And then, it's going to be a week-to-week thing, but not as big a concern after they addressed it Monday.
Now, the one thing you can't complain about was the good open field tackling that Texas Tech was able to do against SMU. You haven't been able to see that in about 3 or 4 years here at Texas Tech. Final question for this week's RaiderPower Minute. Who will be under center? Not the question of who will be under center. To start the game, we kind of got that figured out after Baker Mayfield decided to have himself a coming out party.
Cliff didn't confirm anything.
He didn't confirm anything. But who will be under center in the fourth quarter? Because we're kind of expecting it's Stephen F. Austin. If Baker Mayfield plays the way he played against SMU, the game's going to be pretty much over by halftime.
That's an interesting question because Baker Mayfield, being one game into his collegiate career, needs all the snaps he can get, especially with TCU on Thursday. However, you don't want to run the risk of Mayfield getting injured, or you don't want to run the risk of not getting tired out. Now, granted, these guys are in college; they got plenty of energy. They're doing stuff all the time. But you don't want to tire a guy out just to get him a few more reps against an inferior opponent. My apologies to SFA. I would think Clayton Nicholas would be under center at the end of the game on Saturday for this reason. Number one, he can take some snaps. He needs the experience. And number two, you don't want to burn the red shirt of Davis Webb, especially with Michael Brewer tweeting out this week that he's hoping for some good news in a couple of weeks, or soon as he put it out. And so I don't think you burn the red shirt of Webb to play against SFA. Nicholas needs the snaps. He's the one downing the ball in victory formation, fourth quarter, Saturday night.
Well, as Sonny Cumbie said on Monday in the press conference, it's above his pay grade on who's going to start at quarterback. Of course, we're all thinking it's going to be...
He's well paid.
Yeah, we're all thinking it's going to be Baker Mayfield, who's the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, passed for over 400 yards, passed for 4 touchdowns, rushed for 1. You got to think it's going to be him.
Well, and as of right now, your most experienced quarterback on the roster.
That's true. Besides Michael Brewer, but Michael Brewer still, we're expecting him to be out for at least another few weeks. Well, we appreciate all the questions on the forums. Continue to ask the questions. We'll continue to answer them on the forums. And, of course, Texas Tech kicks off their home portion of their season here Saturday at Jones AT&T Stadium at 6 p.m. against Stephen F. Austin. For Scott Fitzgerald, I'm Josh Cook on RaiderPower.com. We'll see you out at the stadium on Saturday.